NutraCast.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, how to get 30, how to get 20, 20, 20, how to get 20, 20, how to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Imagine being the first person to ever send a payment over the internet. New things can be scary, and crypto is no different. It's new, but like the internet, it's also revolutionary. Making your first crypto trade feels easy with 24/7 support when you need it. Go to Kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc. PVI DBA Kraken. Visit PVI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
This week on the Deep Leadership Podcast.
And so many people over the years have really only focused on that kind of surface level of executive presence. So they focused on appearance and maybe charisma or gravitas. However, what we have found is that executive presence is really more substantive than that. You can only really pull this off if you are authentic.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Now, if you've been a long-time listener, I want to thank you for tuning in each week. The success of this podcast is because of your loyal viewership. If you're new, welcome aboard. The purpose of this podcast is to build a world with better bosses, and we do that by introducing you to the greatest minds working in the leadership space. Our guests are authors and academics, podcasters, entrepreneurs, business leaders, military leaders, and successful leadership practitioners in a variety of industries. And our goal is to provide you with practical information to help you along your leadership path, whether you're new to leadership or seasoned pro. So thank you for listening in. It's an honor to be your host and leadership guide in this journey. Now, as you know, we could not do this important work without our core sponsors, the Salty Sailor Coffee Company, Leader Connect, and our latest sponsor, Pharaoh Skincare. You can find links to all of our sponsors and all of my books in the show notes. Now, today we're joined by Alexa Chilcutt, and we're talking about presence, not Christmas presents, but executive presence. Executive presence is your ability to project mature self-confidence and a sense that you have the ability to take control of a difficult, unpredictable situation. It's about confidence and competence. Leadership author Peter Bregman once said, "Great leaders are confident, connected, committed, and courageous." Alexa is an expert in the area of leadership presence, and we're honored to have her on the show today. Now, this was a powerful episode I know you'll enjoy. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Alexa Chilcutt. Alexa is the faculty lead for the Business Communication Certification Program and the co-lead for the Academy for Women and Leadership at Johns Hopkins Carey Business School's Executive Education Program. She is also an executive education faculty member for Texas Christian University, delivering leadership and training and coaching to corporations and high potential mid to senior level leaders. Her professional background was in public relations and advertising. She is the author of several scientific journal articles on the subjects of team leadership and impression management, and is co-author of the book Engineered to Speak, helping you create and deliver engaging technical presentation. And I'm excited to have her on the show to talk more about the concept of executive presence. So Alexa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. I'm excited to be here and kind of engage in our discussion.
Absolutely. Well, it's an honor to meet you, and you've been doing so much work in teaching leadership and training in leadership. Where did your interest in leadership start off? Where did it begin in your journey?
You know, I would have to say that my journey really began as a child, but watching my father who was a former, you're never a former Marine, right?
Correct.
He was a Marine, and he was a fighter pilot. He flew Cobra helicopters and other, planes and vehicles in Vietnam. And so he was kind of a tough guy. I mean, he came back from Vietnam, which was wonderful. And then he was a test pilot, and he kind of had that moment of, why am I doing this? I came back from Vietnam in one piece, and maybe I should think about a career change. So he went back to school and went into dental school, which was a complete 180. But here you had a man who was a Marine and a very kind of tough guy. And then he had to, after dental school, lead a team, an office that was really focused on patient care and building relationships. And of course, that meant that he had to learn how to build relationships with his team, which was primarily women. I was already about 8 years old when he graduated from dental school. So I really did watch him, as I grew, also grow as a leader and learn a lot about leadership, because he came in kind of hard.
Yeah.
And then learned along the way that was not necessarily the best way to really create that buy-in and that team culture that was really positive. And so when it came time for me to examine or research leadership, I really held him up as kind of a paragon of leadership, because what he ended up with was a group of women that worked for him. They had very low turnover. He had people that worked with him for 20, 30 years. He invested back in him, in them. And, he really was a leader that people wanted to follow. And that trickled down to his patients. So you had one of the most successful practices in North Georgia. And so when it came time for me to research and to choose a topic, then I thought, okay, has anybody really researched leadership and team communication in the context of kind of a dental office? And that's really what I focused on. But all of those principles are transferable to anything. And so along the way, I've kind of grown as well in that. But I also think about executive presence, as you talked about that topic we're going to discuss. When I look back at that, I'm like, he was a great example of executive presence, not just that immediate appearance, et cetera, but those values over time and how he treated people.
I love that. And what a great experience to see, as a young girl and then growing up and see your father, evolve into the leader that he became. And he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't that way in the beginning. And I think a lot of us find ourselves in that leadership journey. We start off, we get promoted into this job, and you're like, okay, suddenly I'm a leader.
Right.
And we make a lot of mistakes along the way, and I think leadership requires doing to learn. You have to do it to sort of learn what works and what doesn't work. And so what a great chance to observe that, in real time. And it's sort of like set a foundation for you for sort of the rest of your life. Like, okay, I remember seeing this journey of your father going through this. And it's really interesting. So you did touch on this, and I want to get into it. Executive presence is something we don't talk about enough about. I think we've probably had one guest talk about it in all, 350 episodes, but we've heard a little bit about it. Tell us exactly what is executive presence.
The best definition that I have found of executive presence, because I think it's very ambiguous for people, and it has been for a long time, is simply the ability for a leader to engage with, to align, and to move people to act. Because the higher you go up in leadership, the more really you are leading through other people, right? The other people are getting the work done. Or not that you're not doing the work, but you have to create that buy-in so that engagement, that alignment, and that influence to have people want to follow you and want to work. And it really does hinge around executive presence, because in a positive sense, someone who has executive presence.
That makes a lot of sense. And so what are some of the characteristics of leaders that have this ability or have this presence?
Traditionally, and so for many of your listeners, they've probably read an article or a book about executive presence or seen, a video. And so many people over the years have really only focused on that kind of surface level of executive presence. So they focused on appearance and maybe charisma or gravitas, and then communication skills. However, what we have found is that executive presence is really more substantive than that. And you can only really pull this off if you are authentic to who you are. So what are your strengths? What are your values? And how do you really kind of be the best version of yourself? So thinking about those characteristics, I'm going to break it in two camps, right? So the first are 5 characteristics that are initial or those kind of short-term impressions that we get. Think about meeting somebody for the first time, maybe interviewing someone, those first initial impressions. So that is status and reputation. You know ahead of time that you have the vice president of such and such coming in, or that someone has impressive accomplishments or an impressive network. That precedes them into the room. And so you're already kind of giving them the benefit of having executive presence just because of their background. So status and reputation, then appearance, confidence. Confidence is really about nonverbal communication, body language, the use of your voice. And I'll go back to appearance. Appearance should not, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. And I teach this a lot. And so I have to kind of get ahead of it. It is not prescriptive. In other words, 20 years ago, it was wear the power suit, look like this, right? It's not that. It is wear the thing, or, it's about looking put together, looking the part for the corporation, for the organization, right? Because there's a culture, there's a standard there, but you want to be the best that you can be, also being comfortable with your own style. So it's mostly about grooming and looking put together more than anything else. So appearance, confidence, your nonverbal body language and voice, and communication skills, engagement skills and communication skills. So how are you engaging with people? Are you interested in them? Are you asking questions about them? Your body language in that engagement, eye contact, etc. And then those communication skills, so crucial for any leader. Can you clearly and simply articulate a message and make it interesting for your audience? So those are the 5 initial. Then there are 5 long-term, but 4 that are positive. So first, values and action. So you say that these are your values, but long-term evaluations over time, do people see you walk the walk, right? Do they see you? If you say, a great example is a new leader comes in and they say, you know what, I'm really open to your feedback. I want a diversity of ideas. I want you to challenge me so that we can come up with the best decisions. And then people see you over time in meetings, shutting voices down.
Oh, yeah.
That might disagree. So you say one thing, you're doing something else. So the more that people see consistent values in action, the higher that perception of executive presence. Then interpersonal integrity. And interpersonal integrity is different than engagement skills. Interpersonal integrity is really how you treat people, once again, over time. A difference between engagement skills and interpersonal integrity is engagement skills is, John, tell me about your kids. How were you? Right. Yeah. How old are they, et cetera. The next time I see you in a week, I don't remember any of that.
No. Yeah.
I don't remember your name. Right. I ask you the same question over again. Okay. That engagement then wasn't really authentic.
Right. It was fake.
People want to see, that you're really authentic in those interactions with other people. So we have values in action, interpersonal integrity, outcome delivery. Do you deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on? Your expertise and intellect. So people believe that you are the person to go to for certain knowledge, but then they come to you for that knowledge. Are they getting it? Are they seeing you as that reference point? So all of those are building over time positively if you are reinforcing through your actions and your behaviors and your language, et cetera. That's positively building your executive presence. Negatively is the last one, and that's coercive leadership. So somebody can make a great first impression. They can have engagement skills. They can have communication skills, all of those things. And then over time, you see that they are really negatively reinforcing kind of that they're creating anxiety in people to get things done, right? When they come in, yes, they have a strong presence, but it's not a positive presence.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this is when I work with leaders, when I teach executive presence, when I'm teaching Academy for Women in Leadership, there are those individuals who say, yes, but I'm quiet. I'm an introvert. I'm not going to be the person that speaks out at the meeting. I don't walk in like I own the room. When you tell them, okay, that's fine. Let's work on some things that you can improve on, right? Let's be self-aware and let's think about your body language and let's think about your improving your communication skills. But it doesn't matter in some level. I mean, yes, you want to make those positive impressions, but your team is going to evaluate you over time. So if you have those values and actions, the outcome delivery, you're the person to go to, you can have quiet leadership and be a strong, powerful leader. So that's why I love those kind of evaluations over time.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Pharaoh Skincare. I would have never imagined I'd be talking about skincare, but this stuff is truly amazing. Pharaoh is revolutionizing skincare by replacing harmful chemicals with natural ingredients sourced from regenerative farms. Now, weightlifting is tough on the hands, and Pharaoh's Epic Dermis is the best product I've ever used to get my callous hands back to normal and stay in the game. Now I use it every day. Pharaoh also works to reduce fine lines, wrinkles, and improve overall skin health. As Pharaoh CEO Charles Mayfield likes to say, a little Pharaoh goes a long way. Deep Leadership Podcast listeners can save 15% off all of their products by using the code DEEP at checkout. So check them out at pharaoh.life. That's FARROW.life. This episode is brought to you by the Salty Sailor Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Deep Leadership Podcast. Salty Sailor is a veteran-owned coffee brand on a mission to deliver premium, fresh roasted coffee while making a positive impact in the world. Their motto is drink coffee and do good, which reflects their commitment to making amazing coffee and actively supporting the military community. 10% of every order goes to the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, an organization dedicated to helping sailors, Marines, and their families in times of need. All our listeners get 10% off every order of their amazing coffee by using the discount code DEEP at checkout. So check them out at saltysailorcoffee.com.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Imagine being the first person to ever send a payment over the internet. New things can be scary, and crypto is no different. It's new, but like the internet, it's also revolutionary. Making your first crypto trade feels easy with 24/7 support when you need it. Go to Kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc. PVI DBA Kraken. Visit PVI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
I love it because it's sort of like the short term, this sort of like the first impressions, and then it's like over time, it's your actions. Are they consistent with what they think that their first impression was, right? One of the things that's interesting, you talk about appearance, and this is one I've struggled with myself personally because I've always run manufacturing companies, and so when I was a young engineer coming to corporate after the military, they made us wear ties, right? And we wore suits, not suits and ties. We wore button-down shirt and ties. And we used to spend a lot of time on the shop floor. And I remember everyone on the shop floor called us ties, the guys that came from the offices that were spending time. They called us ties. And I always felt like it was an us and them. There was a difference between we were special. We were in an office, air-conditioned office. They were out in the shop floor, which was dirty and it was hot. And so I always felt after, once the HR manager left that made us wear ties, we went away from ties. And I always felt like I needed to dress more like the people, like I wanted to be dressed more like the people around me. I didn't want to look like I was special or something different. So even today, as I run my own business, I wear jeans, boots, and a t-shirt because I'm in a manufacturing environment. I don't dress like a CEO, even though I am a CEO. And what are your thoughts on that? Because that's one thing. And I also, by the way, I also teach college. And so when I go in to teach college, I actually dress up with a button-down shirt and nice slacks because I'm a different person in that environment that I am with my students than I am with my workers. What are your thoughts on that? Because sometimes I like, am I authentic? Yes, I am authentic, but it is I'm dressing for the part that I'm playing. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It totally makes sense, and you're actually hitting on something that I teach, and that's impression management, right? Because I think that's the basis of a lot of the executive presence. But there's actually a theory of impression management, and this theory, which was kind of started in the late 60s, Irving Goffman, But anyway, he basically said, this is dramaturgical. This is that whole Shakespeare, all the world is a stage and you are a player. But the reality is it's about you have an audience. You have an audience. And that just takes some agility, right? So I am being authentic, but I can also recognize what is my goal in this role. I did not mean to rhyme there. Okay, so sounded a little goofy. But I mean, what is my goal with this audience? With college, the goal for you as an instructor is to create a sense of authority, not in any kind of negative way, but that you are going to hold them accountable. Believe me, I taught for 11 years at the University of Alabama and had thousands of undergraduate students over those years. And so you do have to dress the part. And I actually trained graduate students who would get up in front and teach classes. I was their supervisor. And this was part of my training. Look, you just graduated from college and now 3 months later, you are actually teaching a course. You have to rethink your whole persona because the minute that you will walk into that room on that first day and that they walk in that room, they are sizing you up. Mm-hmm. And college students, that is a specific audience. They want to know if you're your appearance, are you lax? Are you going to let them get away with things, right? Versus, yes, I've got, a manufacturing business where it's the goal is for me really, yes, to be a good leader and people recognize my leadership, right? It's not that they don't know who you are, but that they see that I'm in this with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not
I think that's it.
Yeah. With the college students. Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. So yeah, you're right. Because you're playing a different role with students than you are with my employees, right? I mean, we're with you. We're working together to get our monthly objectives, to meet the budget for the month. And I'm here, and I'm spending time out on the shop floor talking to people. It's dirty. It's a production environment, and I like to be out there. And so to me, if I'm out there in a button-down shirt and wingtips, it's not the right look. It's not the right. I don't look like I belong there. I look like I'm a stranger in a foreign land. So yeah.
It's all about your audience, and it's all about what you're trying to convey.
Yeah. Well, if you think about maybe examples or maybe either people that are in the news or someone that you mentioned your dad, but are there examples of people that have this really good executive presence that demonstrate it kind of consistently, maybe that are in the public eye at all?
Yes, there are. Let's think about non-politicians. That would be good.
Okay.
You know what? I don't know how people are going to respond to this, but I think Elon Musk has some executive presence. I really do. He is his own character. He is authentic to who he is, but he has a vision, right? He has a vision for his organization. He has a vision for the goals that he wants to accomplish. He absolutely hires people that are going to help him get that done. And it seems like people are really, really eager to be part of, let's say, SpaceX, right? To be part of that vision or Tesla. And so, but, So when you see him in an interview, he is confident. He stays on track. I mean, you're going to listen to him in an interview over here, and then a month later over here. He's not going to say one thing is his goal today and something else is that tomorrow, right? He's not going to switch positions. But he does look put together. He definitely has a sense of self. And it seems like, as I said, people want to work for him. Of course, we haven't had that interpersonal interaction. We don't know.
Right.
But, there are people that I think, leaders that we can look at. Somebody that I want people to look at from your audience, and I will say especially women, Carla Harris. I mentioned her earlier. Carla Harris, as I said, was a woman on Wall Street for 30 years. She just really recently retired. She wrote 3 books: Strategize to Win, Expect to Win, and Lead to Win. She was the VP of Morgan Stanley, incredibly powerful. Carla A. Harris. She is someone you can find videos of her on YouTube, doing commencement speeches, leading seminars, conferences. She is her communication skills are just brilliant. She's engaging, and she's lovely. And you just see that, right, as part of who she is and her leadership style. And I would also recommend for people to read the book, Lead to Win. Just as male or female, read the book, Lead to Win. It's one of my favorites for really talking about leadership and thinking about the perceptions that you create about your leadership.
Yeah. That's really good. No, that's a great recommendation. We'll have to put a link in the show notes for that book, and also to Carla Harris herself. But no, I think you're right. I think it's like, it when you see it, like, I think, like, he's like, with Elon is a great example. Is he's like that confidence, and like you talked about earlier, that that they're going to have the expertise, the intellect, they're going to be able to deliver outcomes, right? And he has a history of that, of doing like really difficult things and making it sort of look easy, like just the whole, like, if you think about the electric car market, no one has been successful trying to launch an electric car company. In fact, they've all like gone bankrupt except for him. He's still standing. He's like one of the only ones still standing. So, and then of course, what he's done with SpaceX is just like science fiction stuff. Like, you look at it, and even myself as an engineer, I look at it and go, I don't know how he's doing it. I have no idea how the physics works on this rocket that can land itself, right? He's doing this impossible thing. So he's authentic, he's confident, but he's also delivering the results. So he consistently delivers the results, which is what you said, the long-term impact of this. Mm-hmm. So if you're a leader listening into this show and you're thinking executive presence, I really have not thought about that too much, but I'd really like to learn more about it, but also like develop my own executive presence. Where would you even start to that journey?
Of course, I teach executive education. So
yeah,
I'm going to say really professional development, because we are, especially if you are in a position where you feel like you still have kind of forward motion in your career, or the possibility of that forward motion, right? Then you really want to invest in yourself, whether that is executive education, coaching, books, podcasts, but we're always learning. There are no perfect leaders. There are no perfect communicators. And I will say, on that note, communication skills. Communication skills are so important to executive presence. And how many of your audience has to lead meetings? How many of you have to give presentations, project updates in front of different stakeholders, internally and externally? Public speaking, learning more skills around public speaking, how to craft effective messages and deliver them really well. That is a key developmental area for people.
I love that. How much does empathy fit into communication skills? Because one of the things that you were talking about is sort of like, over time, are you consistent with having a conversation with an employee, like remembering their story, and especially two-way communication, where we have to be active listeners, and we have to be able to react in an authentic way to stories and things. Where does empathy fit into the idea of communication skills and the ability to sense how other people are feeling, or even a room, how to sense how a room is reacting to a message?
Well, empathy is part of that emotional intelligence quotient, right?
Yeah.
And I think people that really are good leaders, I mean, they've done studies on this. High IQ does not equal good leadership, right? You can know some brilliant people who can't get out of a wet paper bag. They were the most skilled X over here. And somehow, because they were super skilled as an individual contributor, they got put into a leadership position and they have no leadership acumen at all, but they're super smart. So it's really about emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence will get you a whole lot farther, but it's because of that empathy piece and social skills. And so it is about reading the room. It is about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and thinking about, okay, what is the motivation for them to even understand this information? I mean, talking about communication, right? And every message that you craft as a leader in your emails, in presentations, in your meetings, you have to get outside of yourself and ask yourself, what does the audience want? And what can I tell them in a way that's going to motivate them to get this work done, right? To create buy-in with them. So that's where empathy really plays a big part.
Wow. Yeah, I do think it's a big player, and I've seen many leaders that sort of lacked in the empathy department, and so they were trying their best to communicate and trying their best to be a good leader, but it came off flat. Like it didn't connect, I guess is the best way to say. And so I think what I found is that having that empathy, being able to read the room, being able to see employees' reactions, like when they roll their eyes and you don't say, well, what are your concerns, Joe, about that? They just keep talking. Right. Everyone's rolling their eyes and they're still keep talking, right? They sort of miss out on what the room is, how they're reacting. And I'm like, how do you not see what's going on here? That everyone is like confused by your message, right? And so I think that that empathy is a big part of it. And I think you're right. It's the EQ side of it that I think plays a big role in that. And so we've talked about on the show before how important that is, and you touched on it. EQ is, at least in a leadership role, is more important than IQ. Yeah, you better have some intelligence. You better know what you're doing. You better be competent, but you also have to have that EQ piece as well. Yeah. One of the things we talked about with past guests is the idea of self-awareness, and that to me seems like a place to start with respect to how do you develop executive presence, but how do leaders uncover how others perceive them? How can they shift that impression of themselves with their teams and with the outside world?
Okay. So I'm going to give your audience an activity, an exercise.
Okay.
This is a great place to start. So think about this. If I were to go around and poll the people that you work with, right? Horizontally, direct reports, management, everything. So I'm going around and I'm just polling them. Give me 3 adjectives to describe John. So I want everybody in the audience to think about, if someone were to poll all the people that I work with and ask them for adjectives to describe me, what 3 adjectives would most likely come up? And you have to be really kind of honest, right? And this is also where emotional intelligence comes in. And so you write those down. This is kind of what I think the current perceptions are. Then I want you to think about, okay, in my best self version, right? In the leader that I want to be, in that position that I'm really seeking, what would I want people to say about me as a leader when I'm not in the room? And we have to think about when you're not in the room, because that's where all the decisions are being made about you.
Yeah.
About your advancement, about job opportunities, et cetera. Because people are talking about you. It's not just your, ability to get work done, but what are the perceptions about you as a leader? So kind of forecast and think about, what is the best version of myself as a leader? What are those adjectives that I'd most like people to use to describe me? Then, seriously, I make people do this all the time. This is the first thing that we do. Compare the first 3 with the second 3. Now, you might have some crossover. Great. But how do you elevate that, right? Because that's really what you want. These are the current perceptions, but this is where I want to go. And so that's a great place to start. Other than that, yes, you can do a 360. You can, have people, but people aren't necessarily always going to be honest about talking about you as a leader, because they're just worried somehow that that's going to get out. But you can, if you, trust people that will give you an honest feedback. Yeah. Go to a colleague and say, what do you think 3 adjectives are that people would use to describe me? So in my former role at the University of Alabama, I was a director of a program. And I loved it. I loved leading graduate students. I loved teaching, all of that good stuff. I did it for 11 years. And it was really interesting when I brought on an assistant director, and we had a fabulous working relationship for 6 years. And now he's in that position. But it was so interesting because we did have a good relationship. He would tell me sometimes, Alexa, well, the perception of you is, you're intimidating. And I'm like, what? How am I intimidating? So, and it wasn't that it was bad impressions. It was just that I wasn't aware that somehow I was intimidating. And so anyway, it's wonderful to have somebody that you trust to ask, okay, what are those ideas about me in the marketplace?
I love that. I had a similar situation with an employee that I've worked with for years, and I just in confidence. So, what do people say about me? I didn't use the word adjective. I like the idea of adjectives, but I've just, what is the impression of me? And they said they like working for you, but you always chase after a goal, you achieve it, and you never take a break. You're always on to the next goal before we had a chance to even catch our breath. You got to give us a chance to stop, celebrate, and reach a plateau, and then kind of go to the next level. And he said, you're just always off to the next level, and you don't give us a chance to catch our breath. And I'm like, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I was like, it was really an important piece of advice, and it's sort of one of those moments where you're like, you're not a leader if you turn around and there's no one behind you, right? So you've got to pace yourself to where your people can keep up with you, and you can't get too far out in front. And I was too far out in front. And so it helped me sort of recognize, okay, I still have to be ambitious. I still have to work hard towards our objectives, but I also have to recognize the capabilities of my team and the need for rest and the need to celebrate short-term wins. And I didn't do that. I never did that. We're like, oh, that's good, but we can be better, and I think that was a really good advice, and it really helped me along the way. And that was, 25 years ago. And I still think about that moment. It's like, I was just running way out in front of everybody, and they're like, we're trying to keep up, but
and it's great to get that honest feedback from people that you trust. They know that you're, they're not going to hurt your feelings, right? And I'm like,
right.
I don't hurt my feelings. Just tell me, because you are able to kind of course correct a little bit or adjust.
Yeah.
And once again, that circles right on back to emotional intelligence and self-awareness, because only somebody with some emotional intelligence can then self-regulate.
Yeah.
And, approach things differently. So,
yeah, no, I think that feedback is really important. And again, leaders, if you can find those people in your team that you can have those conversations with, because I think getting that, especially early in your career, having those, being able to correct and then sort of fix some of your quirks, and even like, like in your case, you didn't mean to be, didn't perceive yourself to be that way, but yet others did. And so sometimes people perceive you in a way that you did not intend. And so it's just sort of like it's a great feedback to like you say, self-correct and get better. So fantastic advice. I love the idea of 3 adjectives to describe, because it's really simple, easy to remember. And I love that. Idea. So this has been fantastic. What final message would you like to leave with our listeners today?
I would just leave the message of, you can always improve it, right? You can always improve where you are. And I think that's why people listen to podcasts, obviously, because they have that growth mindset. So the one thing I would just say is continue on that journey, continue to think about executive presence. What are those perceptions? How can you elevate them? Because it's always thinking about what's next and how to prepare yourself for that.
Fantastic. Great advice. From Alexa. Alexa, that's been fantastic. How can our listeners find out more about you and the work you do?
Well, honestly, I have one spot. I don't try to shoot things all over the place. Anyone can find me on LinkedIn. So that is my spot, just type in Alexa Chilcutt. And I am incredibly responsive. People message me. I message them back pretty quickly. I mean, within 24 hours, 99% of the time. And if listeners would like a PDF, I actually have put together a PDF of kind of the characteristics of executive presence, that activity, that 3 adjectives, activity, some resources. So if you'll just connect to me or follow me or whatever and send me a message, then and say, hey, I'd like the PDF, I'm happy to send it to people.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put a link to Alexa's LinkedIn profile here in the show notes. It'll be down below, right below my face for those watching on YouTube. And it'll be in the show notes for those listening on audio. So again, there's a free resource for you. Connect with Alexa, and she's going to give you a PDF that's going to help you along this journey. And if you've had some questions about executive presence, and maybe you're like, wow, she hit us with a lot of things in this short episode, and I really want to learn more, please reach out to Alexa, and she's going to give you more information. We're also going to put a link in the show notes to the book, Lead to Win, which she recommends, because it seems like that if we want to see an example of someone with executive presence, we have Carla Harris is a great reminder of that. So we'll put that link in there as well. Alexa, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your knowledge on this important topic and helping us learn more about executive presence in this episode.
Thank you, John. I thought it was a fun conversation and good energy, so I really appreciate being on.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it as well. Thanks again. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Welcome to another season of Crypto with Kamal on Electrocast. Where we explore the future of money and how digital assets are reshaping our world. I'm your host, Kamal Hubbard. Web3 is not just a buzzword, it's a movement that empowers you, your family, and community. So if you're passionate about financial technology or just want to stay ahead of the curve, make sure to tune in and subscribe to Crypto with Kamal wherever you find your favorite podcast.
Dreaming of the perfect event or longing for a clutter-free space? I'm Stephanie with I'm with Steph, where your vision becomes a reality. From magical weddings to transformative home organizing, we bring you expertise and passion to every project. Whether you're planning a grand celebration or seeking peace through organization, we tailor our services to meet your unique needs. I'm with Steph. To explore our services and connect with me directly, visit imwithsteph.com. Mention Electrocast for a 20% discount.